I'll try not to make it sound. I'll try and keep it fresh, but I was really talking about the absolute essence of this practice, like the bare bones of it, is looking into the nature of our minds. That, you know, that's what is the nature of our mind? What is it? What's going on in there? What is it? And the view that the Buddha came to is that the whole thing is empty of any solidity anyway, of any fixed nature. And that even includes the idea of mind itself. So Zen practice intention is to go to the very root of the ground of our being, you know, but that when we think about that, my assumption is that each of us thinks, well, what's that got to do with me? You know, how useful is that? Why would understanding that? Why would manifesting that be? Why would it help relieve us of any anxiety or suffering even? You know, so it's empty. So yeah, big deal. And all that seems to arise is, and what can then arise is that the ego starts to kick up a fuss because it's being viewed as insubstantial, and a delusion. So where do we go from there? What do we do? You know, what's the path? How do we discover whether understanding this and really taking on board that reality is no mind, impermanence, and a lack of ignorance? That they are the three marks of existence according to the Buddha. How does that help us? That was the question I asked. Because what can happen, and what does happen to some folk in the midst of practice, is that we do start to feel this. We can start to experience lack of self and emptiness, and it can initiate a sense of pointlessness, of meaninglessness, of crisis even, of fear, of all these things, you know, particularly meaninglessness. You know, so what's the whole show for? So in a way, I think that's why Zen is such a tough practice, because you know the message it gives is not very. It's a bit like saying, you know, at the end of the day you've got to run a marathon. And running a marathon is really hard, so you've got to train, you've got to do a lot of training, and then you have the marathon to run. You think, why would I do that? You know, why would I do all this practice in order finally to discover that the being that wanted to start it is deluded and empty anyway? Why would you begin? So when the familiar sense of self starts to break down, and it may be, you know, it can happen in all kinds of different ways. Each of us there's no reason why this practice should manifest in the same way for anyone, because we're all different. I mean, you know, we're clearly all different in the way we respond to the world, so why would we expect a similar response? So some people have, you know, the sense of self, it's a crisis, and it breaks down. For other folk, it's more incremental and it's really slow, and what happens is that we reach a place where we can come to terms with our own limitations. We can come to terms with who we are, and we can just embrace that. And you know, and for some folk that's fine. For others, we want to really carry on. We want to really kind of get down to the bare bones of it. And if that is the case, and we do want to experience the world in a fresh or I mean, in a new way, experience it in a different way, then, and I think we all of us have talked about this in different ways, the way we move on is that we stay present to the fear, the meaninglessness, the doubts that arise when the self starts to feel challenged. I don't know any way to gainsay that, unless, by grace. Some people are lucky, they have grace. Something comes down and strikes them with a bolt, and they're fine forevermore. But I haven't had that luck. So last night I was talking about how do we move? If we feel we're approaching the other side of that, and we want to keep moving, what do we do? How do we do it? That's what I talked about. I don't know whether John, you'd like to. You put that off now if you like. We're done from last night. Done the intro.
Okay.
You want to leave it carry on? Okay.
Are we going to get the answer to that?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I just wondered if we had to have been here last night to get the answer.
No. I will talk about it more. But it's nice for me to have John here. And whilst John's here, I thought I might ask John if he wants to say anything about that, either personally or say it after I've said more, or.
Well, so that's not the reason I asked for the recorder to continue to record me.
Carry on,
I think that those questions are even if I think my life is tidy and I understand it and it's rational, there are so many irrational, paradoxical things to this sort of life that certainly raise enough questions. I mean, even the sense that this sense of letting go of the story, letting go of preoccupations. I mean, it raises the question: well, what is this that is letting go? If it's insubstantial and it doesn't exist, there is no separate self. Well, how do I experience something that actually needs to let go? Because it feels pretty real. Somebody described it. It feels a bit like you're sitting just inside your face, behind your eyes, looking out at the world. So there's a very clear sense of a strong sense of self, which is difficult to say. Well, I've just got to let go of that, because there's a subject trying to let go of something that doesn't exist. Anyway. Probably said too much there.
No, it's interesting, yeah.
Sensei, for the purpose of life and point toward the pointlessness, I think for my entire life I've been competing in various different formats, and in that kind of competitive environment, the purpose becomes kind of to win, to achieve this or to achieve that. But I think during the recent years, I was really coming to a breaking point, and I really feel like I just cannot go on anymore. I really can't, because as soon as there is some purpose to be achieved, then there is immediately success and failure, and there's me outside the success and failure, and I have to then satisfy something, and it just was untenable, and I was getting sick and tired of it, and I just felt I couldn't really continue. And very, very recently, I discovered that even trying to let go of success or failure does not work, because it kind of brings back the success and failure. But rather, if I just do it for the purpose of doing it, then there's no success, there's no failure, and there's not much of me anyway. Purpose is the purpose, and that I found was a a lot more workable arrangement for me.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's the constant battle in this. It's the constant paradox in this practice of how do we effort without effort? How do we want to move on? How do we want to grow without immediately setting up a dualistic situation of success and failure? Anyway, but let me just get back to the ways forward when we want to cultivate that, let's say, the greater side of our nature, the great life side of our nature. I don't know how. Anybody got any favourite words for this? You know, we use the absolutes and Buddha nature, or great life, or however you want to talk about it, or the non-dual. All those words, none of them really, you know. But what seems to be the pragmatic experience of everybody in this tradition is that when they're in the non-dual, they feel better. The non-dual doesn't mean that you can't make decisions. It doesn't mean you can't go in and say, I'll have a cappuccino rather than I'll have a coffee. You know, you can make decisions, but you're in the non-dual. It's a different feeling. So, for me, the very first decision, or the first way we start to operate, is when we're in a situation where we have to make a decision, and it has to be, you know, relatively important, not a day-to-day decision, although that counts as well. I mean, am I coming from the inside out, or am I coming from the outside in? You know, am I coming from the small dualistic me that wants things my way, but which I know that when I'm on my own, actually doesn't really cut the mustard, you know, doesn't really do it. It doesn't really, you know, no matter how much I look after my own interests, at the end of the day, I'm not feeling that particular, you know, just not feeling that great. So whenever a situation comes up in which we have to make some kind of decision, ask ourselves, from which perspective am I coming from? Am I coming from an open, spacious, non-dual perspective, or am I coming from a kind of more limited, narrow-minded, selfish? I'm exaggerating, of course. The whole thing's on a spectrum. So that's the first thing to take into account. The second thing to take into account is the part of ourselves that wants to figure it out, the part that wants to understand meaning, the part that wants to grasp, the part that asks all the questions that I've just been posing, is the small separate self. That's the part that asks all these questions. In its absence, those questions don't come up. It's like Goethe said, the point of life is life. It's just, that's it. So the second thing is, you know, don't try and figure it out. You're just banging your head on a wall. Well, that's been my experience. I mean, maybe. And three of the quick things. One is to lighten up. It's not that serious. I mean, it's very serious to you, but as far as the rest of the world's concerned, it probably isn't that serious. Yeah. I don't know if any of you had this experience yourselves, but you've been fearful about saying or doing something with a third party or whatever, and you're nervous of it. And you're nervous of their response. Like maybe setting a boundary that you don't want to, there's a boundary that you're reluctant to set. Like your family want you to go home for Christmas and you don't want to go. That kind of thing, you know. Whatever. And then you pluck up the courage and you set the boundary. They don't care. You finally, they say, oh, okay. And then you become that, you know, your boundary muscle gets stronger and they start to take you as you are, but you've got to establish who you are first with your boundaries. Otherwise, it's the same thing as lighting up, you know. It, like, for other people, your issues aren't as important as they are for you. That doesn't negate the fact that some issues are really, really serious and important. I'm not, you know, when we need to be serious, we need to be serious, and it's necessary to be serious, but I think you all understand what I'm saying.
Sounds like it. I'll just say something relevant to the fact that we've got a beginners group on Saturday this week, and just make a plug for that. And, you know, most of those, I mean, if they all turn up, I mean, there's probably 15 or 16 if they all come. And most of those people, I guess, will have been practicing by themselves for some years. Some of them for some years, or in other traditions. For some people, it'll be brand new. But their practice has been essentially as an individual.
Yeah.
And at some point, the greater life opens out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To say, maybe there is something to be added or gained or, you know, deepened in some way by joining with other people in a Sangha. And I think in a way that's a good illustration of that stepping into the bigger life.
Yeah.
You know, when I step beyond this small life might be okay. I'll check my bank balance, check my pulse, check my relationships, you know, and that seems to be okay. But so what beyond that? And to actually open the door and say, I want to be part of a Sangha.
Yeah.
I want to fulfill something which isn't essential. I can carry on sitting on the cushion in my own room.
Yeah.
Without any problem at all, but it sort of misses something.
I agree. And I think, you know, Gareth and I were talking about it earlier, but people in a Sangha don't realise how important they are to the other members very often. They don't recognise that just their being there is supportive of the other people in the room. I think that, you know, that really is true, and you know, like I've forgotten this. Is it Chris? His name?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know why Chris left. He got up and left. I don't know why he left, but I'm sure I'm not the only person that felt a slight kind of, you know, it creates a little kind of vibration. Yeah. Even just one person who we don't even know leaves, and you think, oh, you know. And it's the same in the Sangha, you know, when people, you don't see folk, you think, oh, what's happened to them? Are they okay? And, you know, all that kind of thing. So it's right. It is to do with that. Incidentally, last week I want to ask you this, because last week on the one of the Dharma talks, favourite phrase of Tenshin, so I brought it up. In fact, it's a Woody Allen phrase. 80% of success is showing up. It's Woody Allen. But what I was wondering is, what is the other 20%? Nobody answered me. I remember that. Nobody said what.
Procrastination.
Oh no! What's the 80% of showing up? You need 80% showing up for success, but what is the other 20% you need for success? Oh, you think procrastination leads to success? Pardon?
Procrastination to get you there. Does procrastination get you there?
No. Procrastination is the opposite.
Yeah. So
procrastination is sitting on your carpet thinking, oh, should I go or not? No, don't think I'll bother.
Yeah, overcoming.
Motivation. Yeah. Overcoming.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. So the other 20. No, I was thinking more of having showed up, i.e., fulfill the 80%. What you do with what then?
Kindness and faith.
Kindness.
And faith.
And faith.
And faith.
Sensei?
Yeah. Oh, hanging out. What do you think, Joe?
Well, what I reckon is that 80% is a pretty good mark.
So Sorry, I couldn't hear.
It'll get you an A.
80% would be a good mark.
Oh, I see. So you're happy with 80?
During my career, I never even got it.
Here's your chance, Joe. You should be 100% Zen.
It's too late.
Too late? No, it's not too late. You haven't even started.
It's early.
It's early. Yeah, it's early. Yeah.
I suppose in a way, I mean, for me, the other 20% is all the other things you talk about, about faith,
Yeah.
compassion, determination, focus, appreciation, gratitude, all those other qualities.
Yeah.
But without turning up, you can't really, or whether that's turning up to your own life, just to sit by yourself, you can't necessarily practice those very easily.
No.
It is.
Yeah.
I was going to just ask you, it is variations of that saying are relatively common, aren't they?
Oh, are they?
Well, I've heard.
What's another one?
Like, there's another one I can't remember. I read sort of genius is 9/10 perspiration.
Oh yeah, genius is
I don't know how to say
90%,
that.
99%.
Okay. But the thing is no matter how 99 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 199,000, there's always another bit.
Yeah.
And so those things often, the first thing I think of is, well, what's the other bit? Because I don't want to do all that effort if I'm going to be missing some crucial bit that you're not telling me about. It's gonna.
Yeah.
Well, they always have questionnaires in the magazine when they're interviewing some celebrity who's famous, and the one question they always ask is, what's most important, ambition or talent? I'm always interested in ambition or talent. What do you think they normally say?
Ambition.
Famous people, I'm going to say talent, won't I?
Pardon?
Famous people,
Oh,
say
yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
What's that?
If they're famous, they're going to say
Talent.
talent.
Yeah.
They're already there.
Ambition.
I don't know.
I think this sitting here and doing all of this and obviously seeing what's going on, and it's a bit alarming.
Yeah.
For me, this is a way to actually look at the really frightening places, and you realise that they're not that frightening, but you've always been frightened to look. They're always like, don't go there. But if you do this, and you're really prepared to stay, right here, you can look straight at that, and looking at it, full on at those shocking moments and terrifying moments, and if you don't panic, and if you really, then it's gone. And I think that's what the other 20% can be.
Okay.
You can actually learn to actually see that it's not just a kind of staring into utter chaos. No, there's something in there which is very wonderful and alive and vibrant, and it's not delusion, it's not hatred, ignorance, greed. No, it isn't. It's something else, and it's very, very real. And when those moments happen, it's like, oh, and it's not a delusion. It has another quality.
Okay.
And it's very real, and it's you. I don't mean you, the ego you. It's
you with a capital Y.
Yes. So I think in this, those hard moments can be the really good moments when you actually, instead of going, oh God, I've had enough of that, I'll just relax now, think about lunch. But you can actually say, no, and you can stay right there, and that really nasty little imp, what do you want to call it, pops up again, and you go, I see you, Mara. Remember that phrase? I see you, Mara.
Be gone, you imp. Very good. And look at that.
On your bike.
Very good timing. Oh, look at that. You're hitting that. You're a good second man on that. Thank you.